Well, I've got just about noon time, so I think maybe we'll go ahead and get started. Let me first of all kick this off and say this is our second in a series of KEPRS updates. I wanted to take an opportunity to share with everyone when we have updates and enhancements and changes in the KEPRS system, and to highlight a couple of things that may have either changed recently or that we've enhanced recently, or points of clarification around any of the modules that we have, and then go into a period of time where people can just ask questions, and we'll try to answer those as best as we can in the KEPRS system. And I've got two sessions up and running right now. I've got both a production environment. I'm signed in as Western Kentucky, and I also have a test environment running, and I'm using University of Kentucky for the test environment. There are some minor differences between the two. Some of the enhancements we've done are in test, but have not been rolled into production quite yet. So I'll highlight those when we get there. So let me unmute everybody, and first of all, ask you all if you have any questions before we go into the agenda. Very good. So what I'd like to cover today, and if you have the presentation in front of you, let's see here. I wanted to make you all aware that when you sign into KEPRS, and when you get to that first, after you've logged in with your user ID and password, there's kind of a landing page that highlights in green that it is the KEPRS system, and you should see a What's New button. And when you click on that What's New button, what you will get is access to the technical guide. So when you click on that, it will download the KEPRS technical guide, and you should see the one that's dated as of July 6th. Now, I try to keep this up to date and current with any changes or enhancements that we're making, but I'm not always on top of everything. So I'm trying to keep as best as I can everything current in that document. So again, anytime you push on that What's New, you should get this document, and it's got kind of operating directions and guidelines. It's got definitions of words and some terms, and in the very back it's also got some frequently asked questions, and those are in the back. Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about is in the IHE profile. So let me go back to production environment. I'm currently signed in as Western. And if I go to the profile module, if you haven't been in this module for a while, what you will see is a reduced number of questions. And the reason for that is we moved a lot of those questions out of the profile and into the responses section for the programs. So basically what we really pull out of there were a lot of the clinical experience questions, and we move those to the program responses. So when you come into this profile section, the first thing you really should be aware of and that you need to pick is this thing called the academic year. From year to year, although not much change, but things may change from year to year, and you'll need to highlight which academic year you are working with before you start keying in a lot of information. And what we will do when a new academic year begins is we will copy everything from the previous year into the current year. That way you're not having to rekey everything. You can just go in and modify. Now, when this was a long and somewhat difficult set of screens to maintain and work with, we had this thing over here called the Jump To section. And the reason we did that was to allow you to jump in and out of the various sections of this template. This is really no longer required. And in fact, it has caused some of the module confusion when somebody picked a particular section and then changed the academic year. We were getting all tied up in the logic and where the data was supposed to be stored and where it's not stored. So we are going to pull this jump to section out of here, since there's now really only about 4 or 5 screens that you need to work with. And so you'll just progress. You'll just go next, 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 until you get your data in, and then you're done. Any questions? Okay, we got 17 people on now, so you can mute your session individually. That way I don't have to do it from here, but if you're in a meeting room or a lunch room or something like that, then go ahead and mute your line and then unmute it when you need to ask a question. So again, pick your academic year, key in your data, screen by screen, go to each section. If you don't have an answer, by the way, all of these narratives are required. And if you don't have an answer, just put in to be determined. Put in a TBD, or we're working on it, or some brief answer so that you get past the edit that says, hey, this is a mandatory field, you got to key in something. Okay. Any questions on the IHE EPP profile section? And by the way, if you don't have the rights to work on the profile, you can still see it. If you're just a regular user of KEPRS, but you don't have the rights to update the profile, you will see this when you go to your program inventory, if you have rights for that as well. And that'll be the next topic. We got to go back and revisit this whole thing around permissions. So when I'm in the program inventory, the first tab that comes up is that IHE and EPP profile, which each of the questions are in here. And so when you click on the response, it'll show you the response for that academic year. Let me switch to test, because I think we keyed in a whole bunch of data here for UK. Yeah. So you can view, and by the way, when you are in the inventory view, you cannot change or update or modify or delete anything. This is a view-only module. All right, let me go back to the KEPRS main menu. And let's talk about permissions. Now, when we started up these applications, we wanted to make sure that we had, a designated individual from each college as to who is going to be your IHE, data security person, IHE admin person. And that person has the rights to go in and work with all of these permissions. And you'll need the EPSB ID in order to do that. So I'm copying my own ID into the field. I do a search, and then it shows for this user, here's Richard Miller, and it lists all 10 of the modules alphabetically. So we've got assessments, audit, clinical educators, contacts, courses, profile, inventory. Program inventory is the view we were just looking at. The program manager, this is what allows you to create new programs or close programs. Then we've got responses and supporting documents, and you can have various rights. And the way you change that right is you click in this space here, and then you can radio button the right that you'd like to grant to that particular individual. So administrative rights means that you can go in, you can modify, you create, you can delete. Data entry just means you can enter data. You can't delete anything. Read only is for viewing only, and then no write means you cannot even access this module. So again, pick whichever level of writes you'd like to assign to this module for this person. And if you want an update view on everybody, then click on the download. You download the users report, and that gives you a full view list of everybody, all the applications, and all of the rights that they've been assigned. Any questions? All right, well, we're just flying right along. I think the next thing I wanted to get into was to review a little bit on the attach supporting document. So let me go back to the home screen. And in that center column under program design, it's the second module down. I say I want to attach supporting documents. And this is where I can begin to attach. So let me say add attachments, and we've made a enhancement here. If I am attaching documents that will be used across the entire EPP, then I select the EPP button. If I am attaching documents that are program specific, then I select the program button. So let me start with the EPP. And then that determines this drop down, and I can attach documents related to clinical experiences, clinical partnerships, the Kentucky P12 curriculum evidence, option 6 mentoring, quality assurance system, student handbook, and the one that we just added, agreements and letters. So if you've got a document of understanding or a memorandum of understanding or a clinical partner agreement or contract or a letter from the dean, a letter of support from the dean for starting a new program, this is where you could attach it. Let's take a look at the program side. So these are program specific documents. This is where I would attach the curriculum guide. Anything related to evidence and analysis or your summary analysis. Again, agreements and letters, because you may have something that is unique or specific to this program. And then something that we've also put out there called the PRU rejoinder. So if we are doing a program review with you on this particular program, this is where you can respond. And that way we've got it available for the reviewers to see, without having to sing it through an attachment and through an email.
Rich?
Yep.
I noticed is that in the EPP button, it allows you to upload information related to P12 curriculum evidence. One of the things that's in the standards has to do with providing evidence of use of the academic standards, for example, or the curriculum framework. Why wouldn't that also be at the program level?
I guess it could. I mean, that's a question I'd probably want to ask of Allison, is if it's more appropriate to put this at the program level, we could do that.
Well, I can just see that as we are working with our program people, and as one of the things is that they have to do is one of the documents is provide evidence, that might be a handy place to stick some of that.
Okay. I like it.
Gary, this is Allison. Okay, if you're putting that information in for the specific program, you're still going to have to be able to present that information to Kate in Ames, because what is needed for program review, while it may be aligned with CAPE, it doesn't supplant what CAPE requires around the standards. Okay, so we were thinking in terms of the alignment with the Kentucky academic standards around like lesson planning, that the structure of that is going to be kind of a generic, everybody does it this way. So which is why we put it at the EPP level rather than breaking it down to the individual program level.
Allison,
Yes?
if that's the case, then we need to just think about this. Maybe we need to clarify or say this a little differently. And so at the EPP level, we're specific about the document we need to see or the evidence we need to see for the Kentucky P12 topic. So maybe we change these words here a little bit. And if they have program-specific evidence, then we go ahead and add that to the program level. But I think we'd need to clarify and differentiate just a little bit about what the different type of documents are and where they could be attached.
Can you do it both ways? If you
Yeah, you can do
attach it, because if it's a general process that every program, especially around initial, does it the same way, why wouldn't it be attached at the EPP level?
Well, because a lot of
repeating the same information over and over again at the program level.
Well, yeah, we don't want them to repeat it, but there are some programs where the P12 curriculum does not apply. Not the teachers.
No.
I'm talking about the
No.
professionals, like if you've got, your principals or the social worker or school guidance counselor.
Right. We're talking about initial start.
No, this covers all programs within the EPP. So if you put an attachment here, it's going to show up everywhere down in the inventory view.
Okay.
Yeah, it shows up on all of them. In fact, let me go take a look at that, because this is a good point in time here to go ahead and look at that. This is the program inventory in test. This is test. This is not real, folks. Let me go look at attachments. And the way you differentiate between EPP wide and program specific is in this left navigation bar. When I click on agriculture, or in fact, any of these programs, I get all of the EPP wide documents. So down here in my list, and it says I've got 7 of them in here. I've got the quality assurance system, something about clinical experiences. I've got an MOA about clinical partnerships. I've got the Kentucky P12 curriculum evidence. Now, if I click on a specific program, let's take Agriculture 846. It changes. Now, I'm only showing those attachments relative to that particular program, 846, agriculture, traditional. Again, these don't apply. These are all goofy titles here. These are just things that I attached. But now I've got like an assessment instrument, assessment scoring guide. I've got a PRU rejoinder, a curriculum guide. But if I clicked on agriculture here and I had an attachment for Kentucky P12, it would show up in this list. Even if I come down here and I pick, a school psych, all of those EPPY documents show up. So, Allison, why don't you and I talk when I get back, and we can figure out, if we want to distinguish between the different kinds of documents here, especially as it relates to P12, and where they might best be attached. But I think Gary's got a point about if it's program specific, then we need to add it to that other list. Any other questions? You go take a look at courses. And I think I'm still in production right now. Let me see if we rolled this out to production, because we did make an enhancement in the overall courses view. Yes, we did. Okay. In a lot of these modules, when you're working with courses or educators or assessments, typically on the bottom half of the screen, there is a grid view. And I'm talking because I'm taking time for the system to build that list. I'm not sure why it's hanging up. All right, let me go look at test environment, see if it's working or if it's faster. Courses. Uh-oh. Well, I know they had some server issues this morning, but I thought they had it resolved. Oh, here we go. Here's a full list. All right, so I'm looking at production. This is for Western. This is live data. And what we're trying to do with these grids was to make them universal with what kind of features you could take advantage of. So let's talk about what's in this first column around the course. You'll see there's an arrow pointing up, and that's an indicator that this entire grid is sorted alphabetically. And if you click on that arrow, it will sort it the other way. And you know what? That's why it's taking it so long. There's a long list of courses out there, and it's taking a while to sort the view.
So, Rich, do you have any sense of how this system is going to be responsive when you've got all programs putting everything in?
Gary, I have no sense.
Because I'm thinking about the KFETs. You know, KFETs takes forever.
Well, I believe between the KFES technology and the KEPRS technology, we're using a different development environment, different system, and even running on a different server.
Right.
So, point well taken. I believe that if, you know, we can probably turn up the crank on the processor speed or memory or whatever if it gets to be an issue or a problem over time. Our servers are not our servers like in the good old days. Everything runs over in COT, and it's a pay-as-you-go. So if we want to bump up the speed and the space, you know, it's something we got to pay for.
Okay.
Okay, the second feature on being able to view all these courses is that filtered area. And this looks very similar to what you would see in Excel. And so if you click on that filter, and maybe the only thing you want to see here is the GTE courses. And you can show only those courses who starts with, and then I can key in G, and it'll show me everything that starts with a G, T, E, and maybe I only want to look at the 500 series programs. Oops, won't find anything with that. GTE 5. Oh, come on. I got to pick one. I do have to pick one, don't I? Filter. I'd like to be able to do a more generic search. Let me see if I can talk to Neeraj on that one. I'd like to be able to stop anywhere along my type ahead and say, go ahead and filter it. I don't like the idea that I have to pick a specific one. All right. We'll take a look at that. Okay, the other thing we can do, let me clear the filter, get a full list. Wow, that's a big list. You can take any one of these columns and drag and drop it to the row above. It will then do what's kind of considered to be a section break on each one of these. So, for example, and there's no rhyme or reason to this actually, but let me take the minimum hours. If I take the minimum hours and drag it to that row, and it's going to sort it, it'll do a section break based on minimum hours. This might make more sense in some of the other grid views where you've got certain attributes or characteristics that you might want to group together. And once you've grouped it, by the way, whatever your view is, whatever it is you're looking on the screen, if you come over here and you do an export, if you export that list to Excel, it will come pre-grouped or pre-sorted the way that you're looking at it. So the way that I've grouped this was by the minimum hours. So it shows all the courses that have minimum hours of 3. And then all the courses that have minimum hours of 6, etc. Okay? Any questions? All right. Well, that's all that I had pulled together for today. So I guess we'll open it up now to just any other questions that you might have. Let me make sure that everybody is unmuted. And ask you all to go ahead and speak up. See if you have any questions out there.
Hey, Rich, this is Jeanette. You mentioned you were moving some of the areas in profile into the responses. So does that mean if I go in today, that quality one that I can't get to stick may be gone?
The one that you are keying into the quality assurance system in the profile was a separate issue or problem, and I'm not sure our development team has fixed that yet.
Oh, okay.
So if you go into the program, you won't see a QA, you won't see a quality assurance question at the program response level. You'll see questions dealing with assessment specific kinds of things and how it relates to your assurance system, your quality assurance system.
So the data I put in there earlier this week, that'll now be gone?
I'm not sure. Yeah, there's something that's not storing properly. I think what was happening on the profile is, for whatever reason, the pointer was pointing to the previous year.
Right,
Yeah,
but in the program area, they also had the same quality question, so I just put the data there. So if that question's gone, will the data I put there also disappear?
No, that should be fine. I'm not aware of any problem in the responses section.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
But if there is, and please, on a trial basis, put your answers into a document, a Word document where you can cut and paste. Put it in there, save it, come back to it, and see if it's still there. And if it's not, please let me know.
Perfect. Will do. Thank you.
Rich and Allison, we've got a couple of programs that want to add a new program option. For example, in our kinesiology program, we would like to add an option for persons who have completed a kinesiology degree in exercise science and now want to do teacher certification. or in our principal program, they would like to add an option where a candidate can either do a specialist or the doctorate. Within KEPRS, would we just need to go ahead and add a new program, or what would you recommend?
Yes, add a new program because it has to have its own unique code. And the way we do that now is through KEPRS and requesting a new program.
Okay, so then what we would do is that after we have done that, we would simply work with you on uploading or whatever we need to do with a new curriculum contract, because the courses will be the same. Everything will be the same. It's just a different academic part of the here at UK that's going to be a little different.
Right. Once you submit the new program approval request through KEPRS, I'll review it, and then if everything is lined up the way it should be, then I'll send you a code for that new program, and you will go in and link the information to that new code. And then once all that information is submitted, you let me know, and then we'll do a staff review. And then it continues on the review process after that.
Okay, so is that when you say continues on to the review process, are you then foreseeing is that adding another option means is that it's got to do a full program review?
Possibly.
Depends.
I'll say I don't have enough information about what's being changed to know whether or not it needs a full program review or if it's enough like what already is approved.
That's fine. I mean, I understand what you're saying. That's fine. Okay.
Thanks, Allison. That was one I couldn't answer.
Rich.
Yep.
Going back to the attachments.
Sure.
And going back to the, and I know is that we're still discussing the difference between the the EPP-wide or unit-wide attachments and program-level attachments.
Yes.
The fact is that you make it possible for us to do an attachment. That does not mean is that there is a required attachment. Is
correct? Oh, correct. Absolutely. All we're doing is providing you an adjective, an attribute. So you can attach it and say it's this type. And all it does is it attaches that type into my inventory view. You could attach anything you like, call it anything you like. And none of these are required.
I think that some institutions are thinking is that they're going to use KEPRS as their entire program management system. Other programs like ours will not. We will be doing our normal CAPE AIMS process, and we'll be doing our own internal program management, and we will want to do as little as we can with KEPRS.
Yep.
That's not a problem, right?
I don't believe so.
No.
I mean, the purpose of KEPRS was to provide a mechanism or tool for coordinating, organizing, and normalizing the necessary documentation and information for the state to do the program review.
Right.
And if you use it for broader purposes other than that, then it's a blessing. But the purpose was all about the program review.
Some of the things is that you're doing, which is adding all kinds of wonderful new enhancements. If you're not careful, you're going to end up with everybody seeing is that every enhancement is now an additional requirement, and that the program simply begins to bloat up beyond what you might have expected that it's going to be. It's just a caution, that's all.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah, I mean, other than having conversations like this and through continued training, I don't know how else to, I mean, and also maybe in the technical guide is a point of clarification about what's required and what's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that might be something is that we need to have as a set of conversations, and then maybe we will not be able to do it until more people have more experience with putting things in.
Yeah, yeah, and trust me, we're learning every day.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Gary. Okay, from Manish, are the years going to start with this year? Yes. I mean, everything right now, you don't need to go back. No, 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 no. Everything right now should be, you know, we're in the 17-18 academic year right now. That's the current year. And when you go to the program inventory, the back end module to view everything, the default is the current academic year. And we're going to add a drop down that will filter the program inventory view. The reason being, we have institutions who are looking a year ahead and want to, you know, preview some of their profile or other answers and responses. Actually, responses don't have academic year. But when you go to the inventory view, you won't see it because it defaults to the current year. So we're going to add a drop down that lets you go forward or back a year. So we're starting the system with 17-18, and as we move forward, we will allow you to look back. Any other questions? Cool. Well, we did this in about a half hour again, about the same as last time. I appreciate everyone taking the time during the summer, and probably a lot of folks are on vacation and trying to get away from it all. So I appreciate you all dialing in and being a part of our session. This is recorded. We will post this to a website. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do that, but we will post these and make them available for everyone to review. Last chance. Any additional questions?
Thanks, Rich.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See you now.
Thanks, Rich.
Take care.
Okay.